Okay, let's go over your payday terms real quick first. And we'll kind of go on look at the week ahead. So we are starting a unit on the heart. We'll spend the next couple weeks going over that, and then we'll do the respiratory system. After that, kind of just the very minimal basics of the cardiovascular system and the respiratory system. And then we'll do vital signs. We'll learn how to take vital signs after those two things. So all of these terms this week have to do with the heart. So coronal is another root word for heart. What root word do we already know for heart? Starts with a C. Cardio. Okay. So coronal is another word for heart. Thrombo is a clot, as in a blood clot. So thrombosis is a blood clot. Athero is the root word for yellowish plaque or a fatty substance. It's like, you have plaque build up in your blood vessels, high fatty foods, things like that. So, or the not good kind of fatty foods. That's that. Veno is vein. I think we had that on our bodies earlier this year. Ventriculo is the root word for ventricle, and y'all probably have learned this already, but your heart has 4 kind of like chambers or rooms in it, if you will, and each of those has a name. So the 2 bottom ones are called the ventricles, and the 2 upper ones are called the atria, and it's on here too. We're going to look at those more in detail Thursday in the lecture. Valvo or valvulo is valve. So between each one of those chambers in the heart, there's valves or kind of like little openings. And we'll look at those later this week too. Atrio is the root word for atrium. Sclerosis, we've had that word before too. It's hardening. I think it was one of our root words that we learned. One of our suffixes we learned. Angio is blood vessel, or it could just be vessel. Arterio is artery. Artery specific is a specific type of blood vessel that heads away from the heart. Always remember A for artery, A for away. And then the last ones are your abbreviations. So MI is myocardial infarction. CV is cardiovascular. Myocardial infarction is the medical term for a heart attack. Myo is what? What's that the root word for? Muscle. So it's like heart muscle, and infarction is an area of tissue that has died. And so that's what happens in a heart attack is you have an area that doesn't get good blood flow because there's some kind of blockage to it, a blood clot or fatty plaque buildup or whatever. So an area of the heart doesn't get good oxygen. Well, what happens to your cells when they don't get oxygen? They die. So that area of the heart dies. That's a myocardial infarction. Causes a heart attack because that area won't beat anymore, won't pump. EKG or an ECG, this is an electrocardiogram. What is that? What's a gram? Picture or record of the what? What specifically of the heart? Electrocardiogram. Just what does it sound like? Electro. Yeah, well, it's electricity, basically. So it looks at the electrical activity of the heart, and that's what it measures. CHF is congestive heart failure. That's something we'll talk about more extensively later on this week. But it's where basically your heart, that's really what the kid had in the movie. Do it. A lot of people have congestive heart failure. People who've had a long history of high blood pressure or they have a lot of excuse me. They have a lot of plaques in their bloodstream that can cause it. Congestive heart failure is what happens when your heart has had to work really hard to pump blood for a long period of time. Usually your heart is enlarged some because the muscle itself has gotten bigger, but it just doesn't pump as adequately as it should. It doesn't mean it's not heart failure like the kid from the video needed a transplant. It's not like acute heart failure. He probably had congestive heart failure before he had the acute heart failure in the video, but what happens is the heart won't pump correctly, so blood backs up. It's not moving through like it needs to. So usually people with congestive heart failure have really like swollen legs or feet, and they have edema. That's that swelling. That's what that's called. And then the last one on here is a K, and that's for potassium, just like a periodic table. The reason I put that on here is because potassium is really important to the function of your heart. It makes it beat correctly. If you have too much or too little, it makes your heart not function the way it needs to. So those are your payday terms this week. Let's go on over the newest project instructions and the flow of the heart. One thing to note is, and we're going to talk more about this Thursday too, but I have listed out here this 1 through 15. Okay? This is actually the path that blood takes to go through the heart, okay, or through your body. So the way that your heart, your blood vessels function, we talked about this at the beginning of the year, we're talking about history and discovering this, is that it's a system. It's kind of like a plumbing system, right? So leaves your heart, goes to your body to deliver oxygen, comes back to your heart, right? So, and along the way, it's going to pick up some oxygen. Well, this is the actual path that blood takes to go through your body. We're going to talk again more extensively on this Thursday, but this is what you'll have a quiz next week over this, and you'll have to be able to put these in order. So this is the best thing to study for that quiz next week. Okay. It'll be next week, though, not this week. So here's your new project instructions. So we'll get in partners or groups of 3. You guys will be one group in here. Your assignment is to create a song with a performance, or you could do a video about the flow of blood through the heart and body. So if you can make up your own tune, or you can use the tune of another song and put your own words to it. So I had one group, and I'll probably let you guys watch that tomorrow. We don't have time today, but I have a group of one that's done this in the past. They did it to what's that song? I'm Sexy and I Know It. Their heart, theirs was It's Pumping and I Know It. That was their heart, and it was really so fun. So any genre of music you can use. I don't care what it is, but you have to include these 15 areas, right? And they have to be in order. You have to tell the flow of blood through the heart. And you can add in your own words, and you'll hear, when you hear their video, you'll hear they have like a chorus that they keep going back to, in the middle of that. But you guys can all work on this together. As your video or song should be creative and utilize whatever resources you have. If you create a video, we're going to watch it in class. If you do a song, then you'll perform it like it needs to be a production. It's not just everybody get up and say, Old MacDonald had a heart, whatever. It has to be a production. This is a test grade. It's a project. The rubric's on the back. Make sure that you know what all is expected on here. So each part of the 45 points of it is just that you include the parts in their proper order. Group grading rubric is down here. That's 25 points. And then the rest of it is kind of your production. So creativity, the presentation, flow of the video, and then is it entertaining? So that's the rest of that. Again, it's a test grade. I didn't put a due date on here yet. Usually I give you guys about 3 weeks. So kind of keep that in your mind, and I'll get an official due date once I work on next week's schedule. But usually, if you don't wait until the last minute, this will be a really fun assignment. If you wait until the last minute, it'll be a miserable assignment. So it's usually pretty fun. Everybody usually has lots of fun with it. Any questions on that? And we'll go over, like I said, we'll go over more in detail in the lecture this week.